The funeral pyre was lit, the fire building steadily around the body of Qui-Gon Jinn, the flames slowly beginning to envelop and consume him. Those who had been chosen to honor him encircled the pyre. Queen Amidala stood with her handmaidens, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, Governor C.O. Bibble, Captain Panaka, and an honor guard of 100 Naboo soldiers. Boss Nass, Jar Jar Binks, and 20 Gungan warriors stood across from them. Linking them together were the members of the Jedi Council, including Yoda and Mace Windu. Another clutch of Jedi Knights, those who had known Qui-Gon longest and best, completed the circle. Anakin Skywalker stood with Obi-Wan, his young face intense as he fought to hold back his tears. A long, sustained drum roll traced the passage of the flames as they reduced Qui-Gon to spirit and ash. When the fire had taken him away, a flight of snowy doves was released into a crimson sunset. The birds rose in a flutter of wings and a splash of pale brilliance, winging swiftly away. Obi-Wan found himself remembering. For his entire life he had studied under the Jedi, and Qui-Gon Jinn in particular. Now Qui-Gon was gone, and Obi-Wan had passed out of an old life and into a new. Now he was a Jedi Knight, not a Padawan. Everything that had gone before was behind a door that had closed on him forever. It was hard to accept, and at the same time it gave him an odd sense of release. He looked down at Anakin. The boy was staring at the ashes of the funeral bier, crying softly. He put his hand on one slim shoulder. "He is one with the Force, Anakin. You must let him go." The boy shook his head. "I miss him." Obi-Wan nodded. "I miss him too, and I will remember him always. But he is gone." Anakin wiped the tears from his face. "What will happen to me now?" The hand tightened on the boy's shoulder. "I will train you, just as Qui-Gon would have done," Obi-Wan Kenobi said softly. "I am your new master, Anakin. You will study with me, and you will become a Jedi Knight. I promise you." The boy straightened, a barely perceptible act. Obi-Wan nodded to himself. Somewhere, he thought, Qui-Gon Jinn would be smiling. Across the way, Mace Windu stood with Yoda, his strong, dark face contemplative as he watched Obi-Wan put his hand on Anakin Skywalker's shoulder. "One life ends, and a new one begins in the Jedi Order," he murmured, almost to himself. Yoda hunched forward, leaning on his gnarled staff, and shook his head.
"Not so sure of this one as of Qui-Gon, do I feel. Troubled he is, wrapped in shadows and difficult choices."
Mace Windu nodded. He knew Yoda's feelings on the matter, but the Council had made its decision. "Obi-Wan will do a good job with him," he said, shifting the subject. "Qui-Gon was right. He is ready." They knew of what the young Padawan had done to save himself from the Sith Lord in the melting pit after Qui-Gon had been struck down. It took an act of extraordinary courage and strength of will. Only a Jedi Knight fully in tune with the Force could have saved himself against such an adversary. Obi-Wan Kenobi had proved himself beyond everyone's expectations that day.
"Ready this time he was,"
Yoda acknowledged grudgingly.
"Ready to train the boy? He may not be."
"Defeating a Sith Lord in combat is a strong test of his readiness for anything," the Council leader pressed. His eyes stayed with Obi-Wan and Anakin. "There is no doubt. The one who tested him was a Sith." Yoda's sleepy eyes blinked.
"Always two there are. No more, no less. A master and an apprentice."
Mace Windu nodded. "Then which one was destroyed, do you think? The master or the apprentice?" They looked at each other now, but neither could provide an answer to the question. That night, Darth Sidious stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city, a shadowy figure amid the multitude of twinkling lights, his visage dark and angry as he contemplated the loss of his apprentice. Years of training had gone into the preparation of Darth Maul as a Sith Lord. He had been more than the equal of the Jedi Knights he had faced, and should have been able to defeat them easily. It was bad luck and chance that had led to his death, a combination that even the power of the dark side could not always overcome. Not in the short run, at least. His brow furrowed. It would be necessary to replace Darth Maul. He would need to train another apprentice. Such a one would not be easy to find. Darth Sidious walked to the railing and put his hands on the cool metal. One thing was certain. Those responsible for killing Darth Maul would be held accountable. Those who had opposed him would not be forgotten. All would be made to pay. His eyes glittered. Still, he had gotten what he wanted most from this business. Even the loss of Darth Maul was worth that. He would bide his time. He would wait for his chance. He would lay the groundwork for what was needed. A smile played across his thin lips. A day of reckoning would come about soon enough.